On today's episode,
jet fuel is a hoax, and airplanes don't actually burn fuel to fly, but rather use an energy source that's gonna have you questioning everything. Just a fun theory for entertainment purposes only.
For suggesting that our historical timelines were wrong and there had in fact been advanced civilizations in earlier moments in time, and that they had been eliminated somehow through climactic events.
The real MJ found buried at Neverland. This can't be true.
People have really good points about Building 7. I'm not an engineer, I'm not an architect. I don't know why Building 7 collapsed. There had to have been a reason, obviously.
You don't need a formal conspiracy when interest
Most insane internet rabbit holes that are oddly convincing, part 6-7. Jet fuel is a hoax, and airplanes don't actually burn fuel to fly, but rather use an energy source that's gonna have you questioning everything. Just a fun theory for entertainment purposes only. So this is a plane. It flies in the air using jet fuel, or so we're told. A typical Boeing 747 carries about 64,000 gallons or 242,000 liters of fuel. That's a lot. A literal metric ton. Actually, about 193 metric tons to be exact. But let me ask you something that you've probably never thought of before. Where the hell do they put it? Like, this is what a 60,000 gallon water tank looks like. That's a person for scale. It's massive. We are told that more than this amount of fuel is stored in the wings of the plane, and that part's not a myth, that's actually what they tell us. And the question people are asking is, where? How exactly do 64,000 gallons fit in these wings? Like, this entire tank is really squeezed into those thin sheets of metal? It just visually doesn't make any sense. And then think about the time that it takes for an airplane to refuel. When you're at an airport, you usually don't see the fuel pump connected to the plane for more than a couple minutes at a time. A regular car takes only about 12 gallons of fuel, and let's say 2 minutes to fill up. Even if these jet fuel pumps pumped at 10 times the rate of a regular car gas pump, do the math, and it should take around 9 hours to fill just half of the plane's 64,000 gallon capacity. Yet we somehow never see a plane getting pumped for more than a couple minutes, if even at all. Sure, they'll tell you these jet fuel pumps are actually way more powerful than that, and can pump fuel at a rate hundreds of times faster than car gas pumps, all going through this hose with a 1 to 2 inch inner diameter, which is actually how wide they are on the inside. Go search it up. All of this fuel which goes to power the turbines, and this is where it starts getting fun, because here's what a turbine from a typical airline jet looks like, pretty standard. And here's the ceiling of the Hoysala temple in India, an ancient temple that is said to have been built around 1150 AD, but some argue it could be much older than that. Now, ancient India has some of the wildest temple architecture and design anywhere on earth, like Kailash, a whole last temple that was carved into the bedrock of the cliff around it, an absolute marvel of ancient engineering. The pillars found inside these temples are so symmetrical, so insanely detailed, they look like they're 3D printed, made hundreds, if not thousands of years ago, and also appear to have been made for much more than just aesthetic purpose, because the engineering behind these pillars is nothing short of miraculous, with moving stone parts that can be physically rotated like they're part of a machine. Some of them aren't even connected to the ground, and just how on earth did they pull that off? Meanwhile, others can fully rotate and spin around. Like, we're talking stone pillars built over 800 years ago, engineered like modern machinery. And I don't see any reason why anyone would go through the painstaking lengths of making stone pillars that can spin unless they had a functional purpose. Oh look, here's one with a stone ball inside of it. Just how? Anyway, these ancient Indian temples really deserve their own video, which I'll cover some other time, but for now, let's focus on the pillars. These pillars are so meticulously designed with incredible laser-like detail and precision, near perfect circular symmetry that look like they were made with modern technology, and also happen to be in a similar shape of an airplane turbine engine. This is where we go a little off the rails. Remember, entertainment purposes only, right? Many fringe theories state that ancient temples and buildings like these were actually power plants that provided energy for past civilizations, like the pyramids of Egypt in the Giza power plant theory, and the same is thought of the temples of ancient India like Kailash and Hoysala, which use specific ancient mechanisms and esoteric knowledge to harness atmospheric energy from the sky to power their ancient societies. I told you this was gonna get weird. Well, now it's being said that same technology is actually being used in modern airplanes, which only use the jet fuel to take off, and once they reach a certain altitude, they tap into this atmospheric energy to stay lifted and move fast, which they would have better access to because of how high planes fly, and that's where this energy is supposedly found. Tartaria technology, Nikola Tesla technology, 0.8 energy being used right under our noses, all while taking money out of our pockets with expensive plane tickets, blaming it on the copious amounts of jet fuel they allegedly need, when they're actually just using the free, unlimited atmospheric energy harnessed by our ancestors. Absolutely insane, I know. But listen, a Boeing 747 can weigh up to 220 tons, while an Airbus 380 can go up to 600 tons. Have you ever stopped to think about how much of a modern miracle it is for a 600-ton metal behemoth to fly through the air for 16 plus hours on end? And all it takes is 4 of these jet turbines, for how powerful they are, aren't even really used anywhere else except for aviation. But even so, someone has to make these engines, and surely it would be much too difficult to keep something like this a secret with hundreds of companies all manufacturing them, right? Well, actually no, because only 3 companies own 99% of all turbine manufacturing in the world: GE Aerospace, Pratt & Whitney, and Rolls-Royce. Any other manufacturer is in some way associated with these big 3. And of course, all of these companies have the usual suspects, Vanguard and BlackRock, as their top shareholders, the 2 mega companies that own everything, who control the 3 companies that essentially power every airline on the planet, also making it almost impossible for anyone else to make their own commercial turbines, with regulations, gatekeepers, certifications, and import controls, to keep their oligopoly in power and free from independent producers to keep this technology as close to their chest as possible. Like, are 4 of these turbines really enough to keep a 600-ton airplane suspended in the air, traveling at hundreds of miles an hour for hours on end, propelled by just the air? I mean, maybe they are. This is what internet rabbit holes are all about, after all. Roast me in the comments if you disagree.
At first, I really didn't like this theory. I was like, this is ridiculous. But the more he went on, I kind of came around a little bit. I mean, I don't think there's any proof or anything. You need a lot more than just a turbine looks like an old temple. But I do subscribe to the possibility that of something like the pyramid power plant theory, and there being alternative forms of energy out there that our society has purposely pushed us away from because it's difficult to monetize. I believe that 100%. Or I shouldn't say I believe that 100%. I believe the possibility for that to be true. Leave that door open, wide open. And so is this possible? When you start talking it from that perspective, maybe, I don't know. It seems very difficult to pull this off, but certainly possible. And man, those temples are really cool, super cool.
The current version of history that we've been told is not only incomplete, it's just wrong. It's just flat out wrong. Whether they were big civilizations in Illinois 10,000 years ago, which there were, by the way. How can we not know that? We sent a man to the moon, and you can't replicate the technology that created. You don't even have a good guess as to how they were built. We don't even know when they were built. But why would anyone care? For suggesting that our historical timelines were wrong, and there had in fact been advanced civilizations in earlier moments in time, and that they had been eliminated somehow through climactic events, through natural disasters, and that we're not aware of them in any detail. Kind of seems to be true. Well, why don't we know that? And what does it tell us about ourselves and about the past that we don't know? That's what I would think people would ask. And I know that what I learned as a kid is wrong. What do we know about ancient civilizations? And the answer is like basically nothing.
Did you read about Tartaria?
Yeah, I'm not a big believer in Tartaria specifically. I think I've watched enough content out there on debunking Tartaria to believe that it's probably explained away. But I do believe that we do not have an accurate grasp on ancient history. And I think it's more sort of simply answered by the fact that people are especially people who spend their lives dedicating themselves to the study of these things. I think those people today, and certainly historically, have been incredibly egotistical. You know, if you look into the history of the field of archaeology, I mean, these were upper crust people, right? You had to be extremely wealthy, come from the upper crust to be able to pursue that level of education and that field. And, you know, I mean, most archaeologists historically were members of the elite. and archaeology of it in and of itself, I think, was weaponized as a tool of empire and colonialization for a long time. I think that's not controversial to say. And so what does that mean? It means you have people with a lot of egos, reputation, an institution of the elite. It could be as simple as they don't want their reputations tarnished. They don't want their power diminished. They don't want, that to be a sort of black mark on the record, right? And so it could be as simple as that in terms of what is driving the impetus to behave in this way, to sort of diminish or steer away from new and alternative theories around ancient history. So it may not necessarily be some dark conspiracy. It could just be narcissism.
We work for a company that helps people fake their own deaths.
And no, we didn't kill anybody. We just make the world believe they're already dead.
When we got hired, we thought it was a witness protection for rich people.
Then our boss handed us a photo and said, by Friday, this man needs to be dead.
He was a tech investor who wanted to disappear before an investigation caught up with him.
So we staged a boating accident. His necklace washed ashore. His phone disappeared. Everybody bought it.
Meanwhile, he was in our car holding a new passport with a new name.
That was our job. Erase one life, build another.
But the company had one rule everyone took way too seriously.
Once we declared you dead, you stayed dead.
At first, we thought that meant no calling family and no going home.
But then we started seeing former clients in places they absolutely should not have been.
One guy we helped disappear showed up 2 years later at a private meeting.
Another was caught walking into a building owned by our company.
So one night, we stayed late and opened files we were never supposed to see.
There wasn't hundreds of clients. There were thousands.
Some of the records went back decades.
And some of these people had never hired us.
Their files said the company had chosen them.
Then one of our newest clients finally told us what was happening.
He was a billionaire who discovered people were legally dead, but still moving money and making decisions behind the scenes.
He wanted to join them.
A week later, we drove him to a private airfield to disappear for good.
Standing beside the plane were faces we recognized from old news stories.
People whose funerals had happened years ago.
That's when we realized our company wasn't helping people escape the world.
It was helping them control it without anyone knowing they were alive.
We went back to the office and searched the system one last time.
2 brand new client files appeared.
Mine had a photo. His had a photo.
Both had dates scheduled for our deaths. To watch the full video, click the link in our bio.
Man, I think the scariest thing about this video is the comments. People arguing about whether or not this is real. Guys, this is obviously not real. It's a performance. This is for entertainment. It's not a real story. You can tell clearly by the tone of their voice. But it's entertaining and it's a very interesting idea. Who knows? I doubt something like this is widely available, but services like this might exist. I mean, they certainly exist for people in the intelligence community in terms of developing fake identities. So it's not much far removed from that to go the next step and terminate the old identity. So certainly possible.
This is witchcraft, bro. It's right in front of your face. You don't even see it. They're lying to you. They're lying to everybody. The human sacrifice rituals are war. But do you know the root word for soldier is 2 words? Soul dyer. Huh. Soul dyer. One whose soul goes to die. That's the root word for soldier. It ain't a good thing. They make you seem like, oh, soldier's a good guy. No, fool. You are a human sacrifice. Surprise. That's what you are. You are a soul dyer. One whose soul goes to... Bro, the Marine Corps? Or is it the Marine Corpse? Huh. Pretty funny. Why do they spell it that way? You know? So like these things perpetuate occultism, and we normalize it, and we normalize it. And then what happens when you normalize the wickedness? You can't tell what is of God or not. So you don't even know. You're clueless to it because you've got it absorbed in your psyche, in your mind, in your spirit, and everything around you. To understand God, you have to be in a place where you are uncompromised in your spirit. You're not doing things that conflict with you. When you conflict in your spirit, bro, that's distortion, and Satan comes in.
Yeah, I'm really not a fan of these sort of linguistic twistings and semantic arguments about witchcraft and stuff like that. You hear this from time to time if you watch conspiracy stuff. Another one is like spelling. Oh, why do they call it spelling? Because you're casting a spell. And why is it called television programming? Because you're being programmed. And it's like, whatever, man. It's very silly. I just looked up the etymology of the word soldier, and it does come from a French word soudure or something like that, which I think is what the argument he was trying to make, being soldier. But actually, if you trace its roots back far enough, it goes to Latin, and it's like soldarius, which is the form of the coin that they use to pay soldiers, and the type of coin that they use to pay military wages. So that's really where the word comes from. It's nothing to do with soul times or whatever. Goofy stuff. I've seen this map before. I just left this in because I find these like maps and the connections are really interesting. I don't think this does a very good job of anything, frankly. But sometimes you see interesting things written on them. You go, oh, what is that? And you learn about a new interesting conspiracy. But this seems to just be a hodgepodge of everything under the sun with very little connections of meaning to it, so it's more for clickbait than anything, but sometimes you find interesting things in there.
The real MJ found buried at Neverland. This can't be true, right? 1984, Michael? 1985, Michael. This is for educational and entertainment purposes. Curious to know your thoughts in the comment section. What really happened to Michael?
Now, I love a good conspiracy theory. This one is around the great Michael Jackson, from user Tayani Gulat. She says this is not the real Michael Jackson. Check out this theory, and this is for entertainment purposes only.
Okay, since the math not math, let's see if we can make this math a little bit better. I put the first cover up. You can go back and you can Google this for yourself. Make sure you Google Neverland Ranch investigators discover corpse of real Michael Jackson. This article was written in 2005 or published in 2005, as you can see. I'm going to read what the coroner says from my other phone. Coroners have officially pronounced Michael Jackson dead. From that we can tell, we is the coroners. He, Michael Jackson, died between 18 and 20 years ago. Forensic investigator Tim Holbrook said, we are not certain at this time who or what has been standing trial in that Santa Maria courthouse. It goes on to say, according to Holbrook, Jackson corpse was buried just inches below a stretch of the miniature train tracks that ran throughout Maryland. The largely desiccated corpse wore the remains of a red, zipper-covered leather jacket and a single glove. Now, they says that we positively identified the body as Jackson by his dental records and DNA, Holbrook said. But even before we conducted a single forensic test, we began to suspect that we uncovered the real Michael, and that the disturbing figure claiming to be Jackson was a fake. I'm saying this to clarify once again, that just because they aired something in one year does not mean that it took place in that year. So check it. Holbrook said that although the corpse was in an advanced stage of decomposition, the investigators compared the body to earlier career publicity photos of Jackson. They saw a striking resemblance in bone structure and facial features. But when they compared the body to the photos taken after 1987, the resemblance was negligible. So basically here, what you may be finding out now is that from 1979 to 1987, they was using reels that had already been pre-recorded of Michael Jackson. Not only that, a little sidebar here. There's a letter said that Michael Jackson had written back in 1979 saying that he no longer wanted to be known as Michael Jackson. Go Google that. He no longer wants to be known as Michael Jackson, but that he wants to be known as MJ. He wanted to kill off the character, Michael Jackson, the one that they had built from his childhood, that he was no longer happy with. Yeah, so when he decided that he no longer wanted to be their money machine, what do you think they did to him? Yeah, it tells it 18 to 20 years prior to before 2005 that they found the remains of Michael Jackson buried on his motherfucking property, and that there was an imposter, a fake Michael Jackson standing in his place now. So who's the Michael Jackson with the Jerry curl? So mind you, 18 to 20 years back from 2005 when they published this article would have been the late 70s, like 79 to 1980, somewhere in that early stage frame, way before the posting of the Pepsi commercial, 83, 84. That does not mean that the Pepsi commercial was not recorded before 83, 84. It just means that they aired that commercial in 83, 84. They go on to say, this discovery raises a lot of questions, but it also sheds light on a number of disturbing incidents. Holbrook said, frankly, Jackson had been acting pretty strange all of a sudden. Now get this here. Forensic experts and music critics are postulating that Jackson was dead before the release of the multi-platinum album, Bad. Detectives are currently analyzing the lyrics to Man in the Mirror for any clues relating to a look-alike entity.
Yeah, I have a lot to say about this one. One, I really hate this clip because he's reacting to some woman's clip and she's reading from something. So it's like, where's the original source? We don't see it on screen. They mentioned the name Holbrook, but we have no way to go and investigate this any further based on what has been provided here, which is very frustrating because who knows if any of this is real. I'm not sure I believe anything that is being said here. However, I do think that this theory could be true. And if it's going to be true about anyone, it is Michael. I mean, there's several pieces about the Michael Jackson history that are suggestive. As some people are saying in the comments, like the Pepsi commercial, there's always been a theory that maybe that he didn't die during the Pepsi commercial. If you don't know, Michael Jackson filmed a Pepsi commercial. Famously, some pyrotechnics, he was dancing on stage or something like that. Some pyrotechnics went off near him and he had a bunch of hair product, gel, whatever, caught fire. So his head catches fire while they're filming the commercial. And, they immediately throw something over his head. He has to be rushed to the hospital, whatever. So there's always been a theory that he was, at a minimum, scarred and burned all over his face. And that's what drove a lot of the plastic surgery, because he looked fairly normal back then during this commercial, and it's after that he starts engaging in a lot of the wild look. And additionally, there's even theories that there's some guy who's loosely associated with Michael Jackson. He's like I forget that guy's name. I wish I could remember his name, but he's like either associated with the Jackson family or somehow associated with Michael Jackson in some way. And he just happens to have burns all over his face. And his voice sounds crazy like Michael, like all hi, and hi, I'm Michael, like all high-pitched or whatever. And there's theories that guy actually is Michael Jackson. And so the theory is that he got burned in the Pepsi commercial, and then after that, this guy enters the Michael Jackson sphere loosely. He's like affiliated with the family or something. I can't remember what the story is. And so Michael's giving him money. And then the theory is that in reality, that is Michael Jackson. He got burned all over his face. And then after that, whenever he appears publicly, he's wearing massive prosthetics and makeup and all this stuff to look normal. And in reality, he was burnt very badly all over his face. And so there are other pieces of evidence that I think kind of not necessarily corroborate it, but certainly support that narrative. That being, people who knew him personally have told stories about going places with Michael Jackson, and he would wear masks that were super elaborate. You couldn't even tell it was him. Now, that could just be because he's Michael Jackson. He can't go in public, so that's certainly explained away, but it also would support the narrative of him having this crazy burned face and being this other guy. There's a famous interview of this other guy. God, I wish I could remember his name, but anyways, it would, to me, make a lot of sense that that's possible, that he got severely scarred and all of the crazy plastic surgery that you see towards the latter half of his life isn't plastic surgery, it's prosthetics. And they're just evolving the prosthetics to match his changing face or whatever, or his changing tastes. So that to me is a lot more realistic than he actually died and was buried at Neverland Ranch. That being said, if you're gonna do that and get away with it with anyone, it's Michael Jackson. And I wouldn't put it past Hollywood and the music industry to do something like that, to kill an artist and then replace them with someone else who's wearing a mask or whatever. I wouldn't put that past them in the slightest. While I don't think we have any legitimate evidence for it, I think it's certainly something that's not above them.
People have really good points about Building 7. I'm not an engineer. I'm not an architect. I don't know why Building 7 collapsed. There had to have been a reason, obviously. But in terms of who did 9/11, it was Al-Qaeda. Yeah. 1000% it was Al-Qaeda. It wasn't the Jews. It wasn't the Saudis or the Saudi royal family. It wasn't the Bushes. It wasn't Silverstein, whatever his name was, for the insurance money. It was Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. What are the most misconceptions that you continue to hear today? It doesn't have to just be 9/11 that actually get you upset. Are there any theories about anything that you did or that you were involved with that personally bother you?
The 9/11 conspiracies bother me the most.
Yeah.
Because there are so many people so positive about their positions that they either speak to me like I'm stupid, or worse yet, they accuse me of being part of the conspiracy. That bugs the shit out of me.
Yeah, we've seen portions of this interview in previous episodes. This is a fresh clip, so I've never seen this clip before, but we have seen portions of the interview before, so it's not news to me, John Kiriaku's opinion on 9/11. And I think I stated in the past, he's obviously very biased. Consider his history. He was part of the CIA when 9/11 happened, served in the CIA for many years afterwards, famously became a whistleblower about, some of the torture programs, something like that. So he obviously has tremendous bias around this issue. So I think that's a lot of what he's saying. Because frankly, I disagree with him entirely here. I think what he's saying is certainly possible. I mean, I'm not saying I know for sure what the facts are, but what he's saying is certainly possible. Obviously, the mainstream narrative, there is evidence, significant evidence to support it. It didn't come out of nowhere. And obviously, elements of Al-Qaeda would have been, even if you are orchestrating a cover-up, you would still need a patsy. And so elements of Al-Qaeda would have been manipulated to do something. And there would have been the evidence there. And John was involved in the CIA at the time. He would have been exposed to all of those things. So even him believing and saying this doesn't discount something else going on, a conspiracy. I think one of the more interesting interviews that John's been a part of is in the Julian Dory podcast. He sees the emails of Epstein being missing in the Epstein files between 99 and 2000, or 2000 and 2001. Those 2 years, there's a significant dearth of emails missing from the files. Obviously suggestive. And when you see John see that, he's like, whoa, takes my breath away. So I think he's just being driven by his own biases more than anything on this one.
Man, a lot of people are really getting conspiracy brain about the whole Iran attacking the water. Let's untangle that, okay? First of all, they've been in our water treatment facilities for a while. That has been a problem since before AI, okay? So that's number one. Number two, The United States government already did the conspiracy. We already have a conspiracy confirmed. We don't need a conspiracy theory because the conspiracy was they fired all of the cybersecurity, folks in the government, basically. What might be a false flag is people talking about it right now because they've been in the systems. But that's because our cybersecurity posture in the United States is the worst of anyone, Not just the government that's just hanging open. It's like most businesses, most of our healthcare, most infrastructure. It's like everyone. Most cities, most police departments. They're all quite bad at cybersecurity because cybersecurity is hard. I know you want it to be a false flag, but we don't need a conspiracy theory when there's a conspiracy confirmed.
This is a very messy clip. I'm not following a lot of what she's saying. She keeps using the term they. They're already in it. I have no idea what she's saying in terms of some of the details here. But overall, I agree 100% with what she's saying. The cybersecurity in this country is pretty atrocious. However, I do think there are elements of our cybersecurity infrastructure that are probably very highly protected. We're talking about certain elements of the military. I'm sure there are elements of it that we would be shocked at how poor the cybersecurity is, but there are certainly elements of our government, that military, intelligence, et cetera, that are extremely well protected, probably to the highest echelons that you are capable of protecting these things. That being said, yeah, our water, our energy infrastructure, whether it's, gas, electricity, whatever, food, the supply chain, our healthcare, 100%, all that stuff is, when it comes to your and I's infrastructure, it's not protected very well at all. So I agree with that 100%. And I don't think that's a conspiracy either. I'm pretty sure that's fact, and you could easily confirm these things.
Had been contacted by the CIA. As a matter of fact, by the time I became the head of the whole news and public affairs operation in 1954, ships had been established.
Congress identified over 50 active journalists on the CIA payroll, but the actual number was much larger. In 1977, another investigation revealed that over 400 American journalists carried out assignments for the CIA over a period of 25 years. These weren't small-time writers. They were evening news anchors, award-winning reporters, and Pulitzer Prize winners, people who ordinary Americans trusted deeply. CIA documents also revealed the agency could plant fake stories in foreign newspapers, and those same stories could be picked up by American media and reported it as real news.
This would mean that the CIA could manipulate the news in the United States by channeling it through some foreign country.
The CIA was essentially writing the news. It was such a big scandal that the president got involved. In 1977, a presidential order banned the CIA from using journalists. The message to the public was clear. It was over. It would not happen again. But not everyone believed that.
You can say what you want about a lot of the things that happened in the 70s with the Church Committee. A lot of things were banned. MK Ultra stuff was supposedly stopped. All these things supposedly happened back then. But I find it very hard to believe. I think things, ultimately, elements of the CIA, the intelligence community would have likely pivoted, and so would have moved those programs under new names, under new program umbrellas, gone dark, maybe went quiet for years. A lot changed after 9/11. So whether there was a period of good behavior between the 70s and the 2000s, possibly. I think it's unlikely. You're still fighting the Cold War during this period, so I think it's unlikely that any of that really happened. Like I said, I think it's more likely that things pivoted, things went even darker and into deeper corners of the deep state that became more and more difficult to ferret out. So I think that's more likely the case. And yeah, I believe this is talking about Operation Mockingbird, or some variation of that, something like that. And definitely the case that, and we know this is to be a fact. And since then, I think what would have happened is that in the past, in the 70s, it was directly CIA involvement, and you could connect the CIA directly to these agents or assets who were operating on their behalf. manipulating narratives in the news media. Today, I think it's more likely done through the private sector. And I think the private sector has a more informal relationship with the quote unquote deep state. I think that's possibly what it looks like today. But I definitely think this is still happening. If you don't think this is happening, it's so shocking to me that people don't believe these things are going on. It seems to me to be the most naive perspective in today's world, to not believe that the media is being manipulated. When for a fact we know at least popular media is. That's not a theory, that's a fact. CIA has a Hollywood budget where they fund projects and contribute to script writing on those projects, right? So they control the narrative when it comes to popular media. What makes you think news media would be any different? Why are they doing it? Ask yourself, why are they doing it for popular media, for movies, for that kind of stuff? To shape the way you think. If that's the objective, why would they stop at popular media? You think that journalism is just not going to get touched? I mean, come on. Grow up, guys. Grow up. It's so frustrating when people refuse to believe those kinds of things. The naivety of it is just shocking to me, really. And I will admit that for many, many years, I thought independent sources like channels who sprang up out of YouTube and stuff like that, places like Daily Wire and Crowder and whoever, name whoever you want, doesn't matter. I thought a lot of these guys were a lot more reliable, and that's clearly not the case either. They're all pushing their own narratives, often funded by someone behind them, and that narrative is controlled or highly manipulated by those people who are funding those operations. In case of Daily Wire, it's clearly some sort of Zionist organization that's really pulling the strings there. Obviously, I'd say the same thing probably about Crowder. And there's probably significant amount of other people out there who are being controlled by similar forces. I think the Charlie Kirk episode is pretty indicative of that being the case with all these influencers. I think this one is absolutely 100% true. It's still going on today, for sure, 100%. All right, guys, we're going to stop it there today. Hope you enjoyed some of these clips, some interesting ones today. If you liked it, drop me a like, subscribe to the channel. We do this kind of stuff all the time. I drop several videos a week, so check it out. Got some other type of content as well. This is just kind of the fun short form stuff, but we're doing deeper dives into documentaries and stuff like that you might find interesting. Go ahead and check the channel out. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what other types of content you might be interested in. I'm really looking to build an audience here, and I want to shape the content around that audience. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to drop it down in the comments below. With that being said, thanks for joining us. We'll be back with another one next time. See you then.